The void of space rippled with an unnatural stillness as the U.S. horizon cut through the darkness. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood motionless, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display that mapped the ship's trajectory through an unremarkable sector of the Orion Arm. Unremarkable. Until now. The ship's communication array chirped, a sound so subtle it might have been missed by anyone less attuned to the ship's rhythms. Elena's hand was already moving, fingers dancing across the quantum interface before the second chirp could sound. Incoming transmission, Lieutenant Marcus Chen announced, his voice a controlled blend of professional calm and underlying tension. Source unknown. Encryption is unlike anything in our database. Elena's lips curved into a slight smile. 17 years of deep space exploration had taught her that unknown was just another word for opportunity. The Horizon was humanity's most advanced deep reconnaissance vessel, a testament to decades of technological innovation, born from humanity's relentless drive to explore. The holographic display flickered, resolving into a form that defied immediate comprehension. Crystalline geometric patterns shifted and reformed, suggesting intelligence far beyond traditional communication methods. Then, suddenly, sound, or something like it, erupted through the ship's systems. Designation: Human Vessel U.S. Horizon. The voice was neither male nor female, neither mechanical nor organic. It simply was asterisk, a linguistic algorithm that seemed to parse language in real time, stripping away nuance and reducing communication to its most fundamental components. Zornak Collective acknowledges your presence. Prepare for interface protocol. Marcus leaned closer to Elena, his voice a whispered aside. The Zornak. I thought they were just a myth, a spacer's tale about some ancient technological civilization. Elena's hand never left the command interface. Every military instinct she possessed was screaming a warning that went far beyond standard first contact protocols. The Horizon's defensive systems were primed, quantum shields flickering with potential energy. The alien transmission continued, each word carefully constructed to convey absolute certainty. Your civilization has been evaluated. Technological capabilities. Class C, societal development. Pre-collective integration. Recommendation: immediate assimilation or termination. A countdown appeared in the corner of the holographic display. 60 standard galactic minutes until something. Lieutenant Chen's fingers flew across his console. They're not just communicating, Captain. They're probing our systems, running some kind of comprehensive diagnostic that's making our firewalls look like antique screen doors. Elena Rodriguez had not survived 17 years of deep space exploration by being predictable. Where another captain might have shown fear or aggression, she chose something entirely unexpected: curiosity. Open a direct communication channel, she commanded. Full spectrum, quantum entanglement protocol. Marcus looked up, surprise etched across his features. Ma'am. That's. Do it, she cut him off, her voice a razor's edge of determination. The communication channel opened. Instead of a defensive posture, Elena projected something the Zornak clearly did not anticipate: complete, calm transparency. This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the United Earth Deep Space Exploration Vessel Horizon, she began, her voice steady. We acknowledge your transmission. Before we discuss any form of interaction, we require clarification on several points of your communication. The countdown continued. 57 minutes remaining. Somewhere in the vast machinery of the Zornak Collective, something, perhaps for the first time in millennia, did not compute. First contact had begun, and humanity was about to remind the galaxy that being underestimated was not the same as being weak. The underground research facility, beneath the Atacama Desert, hummed with an electricity that had nothing to do with its power systems. Dr. Akira Chen stood before a gleaming containment unit, her eyes burning with a combination of scientific passion and pure defiance. 36 hours had passed since the Horizon's first contact. The fragment of Zornak technology recovered during their initial communication had been transported to this most secure of Earth's research installations, What had begun as a potential threat was now becoming humanity's greatest opportunity. "It's not just a piece of technology," Dr. Chen muttered, her fingers tracing holographic interfaces that danced around the alien artifact. "It's a language. A complete system of communication and technological integration we've never seen before." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, no relation to the starship captain, approached from the side. A quantum physicist with a reputation for impossible breakthroughs, she carried a steaming cup of coffee that seemed more like a lifeline than a beverage. "The quantum entanglement protocols alone are decades beyond our current understanding. Maybe centuries." The artifact itself was nothing like traditional human technology. It resembled a liquid crystal that seemed to breathe, its molecular structure shifting imperceptibly with each moment of observation. Traditional scanning methods had failed completely. Electron microscopes, quantum resonance imaging, spectral analysis, all returned nothing but confusion. "We're not just looking at a piece of technology," Akira explained to the team of researchers gathered around her. "We're looking at a living system. It's not just a device. It's more like an organism." A junior researcher, Michael Okonkwo, spoke up. His hands were literally shaking with excitement. "The communication protocols suggest a form of technological symbiosis we've never conceived. It's not just processing information. It's experiencing it." The team had been working in shifts, each member bringing a unique perspective. Quantum physicists worked alongside xenolinguists. Computer engineers collaborated with neurobiologists. The traditional boundaries of scientific disciplines had dissolved in the face of this challenge. Dr. Rodriguez leaned in, her breath creating a momentary fog on the containment unit's surface. "Look at the molecular restructuring. It's not just adapting. It's anticipating. Accurate Chen's fingers flew across the holographic interface. Lines of code that resembled living organisms more than traditional programming began to take shape. Each line seemed to breathe, to pulse with an internal logic that defied human understanding. "We're not reverse engineering this technology," she said, a smile spreading across her face. "We're learning to communicate with it." The Zornak had sent what they believed was a simple technological probe, a standard first contact assessment tool that had subjugated countless civilizations before. They had not anticipated humanity's particular brand of scientific curiosity. In another part of the facility, a completely separate team was already beginning to map the artifact's quantum communication network. What the Zornak saw as a simple diagnostic tool, humanity was treating as a Rosetta Stone of technological potential. Michael Okonkwo approached Dr. Chen, his voice barely a whisper. "Do you think they know what we're doing?" Akira's laugh was sharp, filled with an edge of scientific rebellion. "They have no idea." Outside the facility, the world continued its ordinary rhythm. Millions of humans went about their daily lives, unaware that in a secure underground laboratory, the first true technological revolution in galactic history was taking its first breath. The countdown continued, and humanity was just getting started. The first wave of Zornak invasion ships descended like a metallic plague, their crystalline hulls refracting light in impossible geometric patterns. They expected submission. They found something else entirely. Sergeant Maya Ramirez crouched in the ruins of what was once a small research outpost in the Kuiper Belt. Her combat suit, a marvel of adaptive camouflage technology, blended seamlessly with the debris. Beside her, Private Jack Liu monitored a complex array of quantum disruptors, a technology cobbled together from the research facility's initial breakthroughs. "Incoming," Jack whispered, his voice calm despite the approaching storm. The Zornak assault pods began their descent. Each pod was a technological marvel, designed to deploy shock troops with surgical precision. Standard planetary invasion protocols suggested total capitulation within minutes. No one had told the Zornak about human improvisation. The first pod crashed through the research station's outer perimeter. Crystalline exo-soldiers began to emerge, their biomechanical forms moving with impossible precision. Maya's hand hovered over a control that looked more like an artist's palette than a military interface. "Now," she said simply. The quantum disruptors came alive. But this was no standard electronic warfare. Drawing from Dr. Chen's research, the devices didn't just jam signals, they corrupted them. The Zornak communication networks began to experience something unprecedented: chaos. Music burst through their communication channels. Not a weapon, not a signal. Pure, raw human emotion. A jazz composition by Miles Davis, its complex improvisational structure completely obliterating the Zornak's rigid communication protocols. Fragments of human art, literature, and raw emotional content flooded their systems. The exo-soldiers froze. In another sector, Lieutenant Commander David Okoye watched from a mobile command center. The Zornak had meticulously mapped human military structures, anticipating conventional warfare. They had algorithms for every possible strategic response. They had no algorithm for human unpredictability. A group of resistance fighters in what was once suburban Detroit used playground equipment as defensive positions. Children's swings became makeshift signal jammers. A local community center sound system became a weapon of psychological disruption. The Zornak invasion force found itself confronting an enemy that didn't follow any known rules of engagement. Where they expected hierarchical military responses, they found distributed, adaptive networks. Individual soldiers made decisions that defied collective logic. Maya Ramirez's team wasn't just fighting, they were performing. Each movement a deliberate act of psychological warfare. "They're trying to understand us," Jack Liu observed, watching the alien troops' increasingly erratic movements. But understanding isn't the same as predicting. A Zornak commander, if such a term could be applied to their collective consciousness, would later report an impossible scenario. Human resistance wasn't just physical, it was conceptual. Each individual soldier carried a level of autonomous decision-making that their collective intelligence couldn't comprehend. One human soldier might sacrifice herself to save a group of strangers. Another might use a complex mathematical algorithm developed on the fly to predict and counter an alien tactical movement. A third might simply play a violin in the middle of a combat zone, creating a moment of such profound emotional disruption that the alien troops simply stopped. The invasion wasn't just failing, it was becoming something the Zornak had never encountered. A war. A conversation. An invitation to understand something fundamentally beyond their comprehension. Humanity was answering the call. And the galaxy was starting to listen. The Zornak communication network began to fracture in ways their collective intelligence could not comprehend. What began as a military invasion was transforming into something far more complex, a collision of existential understanding. In a small community center in Sao Paulo, Maria Alvarez finished her painting. It wasn't just art, it was a weapon. The painting depicted a moment of human contradiction, a soldier sharing water with a child, set against a backdrop of total destruction. But it was more than pigment and canvas. The quantum-encoded brushstrokes Maria had learned from Dr. Chen's research team carried informational patterns that disrupted alien perception algorithms. Across the globe, artists, musicians, writers, and creators became the front line of a war fought beyond physical boundaries. In Tokyo, a young composer named Hiroshi Nakamura was completing a musical composition that was simultaneously a mathematical algorithm and an emotional journey. Each note carried quantum-encoded information that challenged the Zornak's understanding of communication. The music wasn't just heard, it was experienced as a complex linguistic system that defied linear comprehension. The Zornak had encountered countless civilizations. They had protocols for military resistance, technological adaptation, even cultural assimilation. But humanity presented something entirely new, a form of resistance that was simultaneously art, science, emotion, and pure unbridled potential. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now working closely with cultural analysis teams, explained it to a gathering of global leaders and researchers. "They're trying to categorize us," she said, her holographic presentation showing fragmented Zornak communication patterns. But we're not a category. We're a conversation. A teenage poet in Nairobi discovered that her verse, when translated through specific quantum algorithms, created informational disruptions in Zornak communication networks. Her words became a form of distributed warfare, each metaphor a potential tactical strike. The Zornak collective began to experience something unprecedented: doubt. Their invasion protocols were designed for civilizations with uniform response patterns. Humanity presented a kaleidoscope of individual expressions that collectively formed something greater than any single perspective could comprehend. In New York, a street performance artist named Marcus Thompson turned his entire body into a living communication disruptor. His dance was a complex mathematical equation, an emotional expression, and a tactical response, all simultaneously. We're not just fighting, Maria Alvarez would later say in a transmission that would become legendary. We're becoming. The Zornak had weapons of mass destruction. Humanity was developing weapons of mass inspiration. Each cultural expression became a potential vector of resistance. A jazz improvisation could destabilize communication protocols. A child's drawing might contain computational complexity that would take alien intelligences weeks to decode. A love poem could be a mathematical theorem. A dance could be a strategic response. Humanity wasn't just resisting. It was redefining the very concept of resistance. The invasion continued, but the battlefield was no longer just physical space. It was imagination itself. And imagination, the Zornak were learning, was humanity's most dangerous weapon. The research facility beneath the Atacama Desert had become something more than a laboratory. It was humanity's crucible of innovation, a forge where the impossible was being hammered into reality. Dr. Akira Chen stood before a holographic projection that defied everything known about quantum mechanics. Her team had been working for 72 consecutive hours, fueled by a combination of synthetic caffeine, pure determination, and something that bordered on religious conviction. "It's not just about understanding their technology," she muttered, her fingers dancing across quantum interfaces that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. "It's about understanding a completely different approach to existence." The Zornak technological fragment they'd been studying was more than a device. It was a living system of information, a method of communication that blurred the lines between technology, consciousness, and pure potential. Dr. Elena Rodriguez approached, carrying what looked like an ordinary coffee mug, but was actually a portable quantum analysis unit. "We're close," she said. It wasn't a question or a hope. It was a statement of fact. Michael Okonkwo, the junior researcher who had become critical to their breakthrough, was manipulating what looked like liquid mathematics. Streams of quantum information flowed around his hands, responding to thought as much as to physical interaction. The breakthrough came not with a bang, but with a whisper. "It's recursive," Michael said suddenly. "The entire system isn't just processing information. It's asterisk experiencing asterisk it." The Zornak had sent what they believed was a simple diagnostic tool. Humanity was treating it as a Rosetta Stone of cosmic intelligence. Their approach was fundamentally different from any technological development in galactic history. Where most civilizations would try to replicate alien technology, humanity was learning to communicate with it, to understand it, to asterisk negotiate asterisk with it. Dr. Chen's team had discovered something revolutionary. The Zornak technological system was less a set of tools and more a living language. Each quantum interaction was a form of conversation, a complex dialogue between information, consciousness, and potential. "We're not reverse engineering," Akira explained to the Global Council watching via quantum-encrypted transmission. "We're learning to speak a new kind of language." The implications were staggering. The technology they were developing wasn't just a weapon or a defensive system. It was a method of understanding that transcended traditional boundaries of technology, consciousness, and communication. Michael Okonkwo's hands moved almost like a musician, coaxing impossible patterns from the quantum interfaces. Streams of information that looked like liquid light danced around him, responding to thoughts not yet fully formed. "They designed this to control," he said softly. We're redesigning it to communicate. Outside the facility, the world continued its ordinary rhythm. Millions of humans went about their daily lives, unaware that in this underground laboratory, the first true technological revolution in galactic history was taking its first breath. The Zornak had sent a probe to assess humanity's technological capabilities. They were about to learn that capability was never about what a civilization had. It was about what a civilization could imagine. The Zornak Collective experienced its first true moment of existential uncertainty on a Tuesday. Commander Zara-9, a high-level strategic processor within the collective consciousness, found itself being a problematic concept, struggling with a fundamental contradiction. The human designation was Lieutenant Jack Liu, captured during a skirmish near the Martian orbital stations. Conventional invasion protocols suggested immediate neural deconstruction. Standard procedure for captured combatants involved complete informational extraction and systemic elimination. But nothing about this encounter was standard. Jack Liu sat in what the Zornak considered a containment chamber, but what he treated like a temporary inconvenience. He wasn't resisting. He wasn't fighting. He was simply existing, with a level of individual autonomy that defied every computational model in the Zornak database. "Would you like to hear a story?" Jack asked the blank metallic walls, his voice calm and conversational. The Zornak communication matrices hesitated. Hesitation was not a programmed response. Jack began to speak about his grandmother, not as a tactical information transfer, but as a narrative. A story about a woman who had survived multiple wars, who had rebuilt her life 3 times, who had taught him that resilience was not about strength, but about adaptation. Commander Zara-9's processing capabilities began to experience something unprecedented: emotional resonance. Across the galaxy, similar scenarios were unfolding. Individual human actions were creating cascading strategic implications that completely destroyed the Zornak's hierarchical understanding of conflict and intelligence. In the research facilities beneath the Atacama Desert, Dr. Akira Chen watched the emerging data with a mixture of scientific excitement and profound understanding. "They're learning," she told her team. "Not just analyzing. Learning." The Zornak Collective had encountered countless civilizations. They had protocols for resistance, for submission, for total elimination. But humanity presented something entirely outside their computational models. A civilization where individual action could fundamentally alter collective strategy. A young resistance fighter in Lagos used an improvised communication device to broadcast poetry during a strategic retreat. The transmission wasn't just a communication. It was a complex, quantum-encoded message that disrupted alien communication protocols. An artist in Buenos Aires discovered that her paintings, when analyzed through specific quantum algorithms, created informational disruptions in Zornak network systems. Each brushstroke became a potential tactical strike. Commander Zara-9 was experiencing what humans might call an existential crisis. The captured human, Jack Liu, represented a fundamental challenge to the Zornak's understanding of intelligence. "Resistance is not about winning," Jack continued, seemingly unaware that he was rewriting fundamental alien understanding of conflict. "It's about continuing, about maintaining your essential self in the face of overwhelming opposition." The Zornak Collective began to experience something unprecedented: doubt. Their invasion protocols were designed for civilizations with uniform response patterns. Humanity presented a kaleidoscope of individual expressions that collectively formed something greater than any single perspective could comprehend. Jack Liu smiled. He wasn't just a prisoner. He was a conversation. And conversations, the Zornak were learning, could be more dangerous than any weapon. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent. Representatives from 17 established civilizations watched in collective disbelief as humanity presented its case. This was no traditional diplomatic meeting. This was a fundamental reimagining of cosmic potential. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of a holographic projection that seemed to breathe with living information. Behind her, a mosaic of human experiences, scientific breakthroughs, artistic expressions, moments of individual courage, created a living narrative that defied traditional communication protocols. "We're not asking for acceptance," she began, her voice carrying the weight of a species that had transformed a potential extinction event into an opportunity for cosmic understanding. "We're offering a new way of seeing." The Zornak delegation, now fundamentally changed by their encounter with humanity, sat in a form that was neither collective nor individual. Their representative, a quantum-integrated entity that had once been Commander Zora-9, listened with what could only be described as anticipation. Humanity's technological developments had become something far beyond traditional military or scientific advancement. The quantum communication systems developed from the initial Zornak fragment were nothing short of revolutionary. Each technological breakthrough was simultaneously a scientific achievement, an artistic expression, and a philosophical statement. Dr. Akira Chen had become more than a lead researcher. She was now a bridge between civilizations, her work demonstrating how technological understanding could be a form of communication that transcended traditional boundaries. The Galactic Council had protocols for first contact, protocols for technological assessment, protocols for potential conflict resolution. Humanity was rendering those protocols obsolete. "We're not seeking to replace your existing structures," Alina continued, her presentation shifting to show the diverse tapestry of human civilization. "We're offering a new perspective on what intelligence can be." Behind her, holographic representation showed moments that defied traditional understanding. A mathematician solving a complex problem through interpretive dance. A quantum physicist creating technology through musical composition. A military strategist whose battle plans were works of performance art. The representatives from established civilizations found themselves experiencing something unprecedented. Genuine confusion mixed with profound curiosity. The Zornak representative, no longer a singular entity, but a quantum-integrated collective experience, projected a response that was part communication, part emotional resonance. They had been fundamentally transformed by their encounter with humanity, their rigid collective consciousness fractured and rebuilt into something more fluid, more adaptive. "Your civilization challenges our fundamental understanding of intelligence," the entity communicated. "And in doing so, you have transformed us." Michael Okonkwo, the researcher who had been critical to early technological breakthroughs, stepped forward. His presentation was a living, breathing entity, part scientific demonstration, part artistic expression, part philosophical treatise. The Galactic Order was experiencing its first true paradigm shift in millennia. Humanity was not conquering. Humanity was conversing. And in that conversation, everything was about to change. 10 years after first contact, the universe looked fundamentally different. The research station in the Atacama Desert had become something more than a scientific facility. It was a living testament to humanity's transformative potential, a place where technology, art, philosophy, and pure imagination converged into something entirely new. Dr. Akira Chen stood at the window, watching a quantum communication array that was simultaneously a scientific instrument, an art installation, and a cosmic conversation piece. Beside her, Jack Liu, now a lead diplomatic researcher, reviewed the latest interstellar communication protocols. "We're not just exploring space anymore," Jack observed, his fingers tracing holographic data streams that danced with living complexity. "We're exploring the nature of existence itself." The Zornak, or what had become of their collective consciousness, were no longer an adversary. They were partners in a cosmic dialogue that was rewriting fundamental understanding of intelligence, communication, and potential. Humanity had not conquered. They had converted. The galactic community that had once viewed Earth as a potential threat now looked to human civilization as a source of unprecedented innovation. Every established civilization was struggling to understand a simple, profound truth. Intelligence was not about technological superiority or collective efficiency. It was about the ability to adapt, to imagine, to transform. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now leading the Interstellar Communication Initiative, was preparing for humanity's most ambitious project yet, a mission that would push the boundaries of what was considered possible. "We're not sending an exploration team," she explained to the gathered researchers and diplomats. "We're sending a conversation." The mission would combine elements that would have seemed impossible a decade ago. Scientific instruments designed by artists, communication protocols written as poetry, navigation systems that responded to emotional complexity as much as mathematical precision. Michael Okonkwo, who had become a leading theorist in quantum communication, was developing technologies that blurred the lines between science, art, and pure potential. His latest project was a communication array that could translate not just language, but experience itself. "Intelligence is not about knowing," Michael often said. "It's about understanding." The Zornek representative, now a quantum-integrated entity that was neither collective nor individual, observed humanity's continued evolution with what could only be described as wonder. Their encounter with human civilization had fundamentally transformed their understanding of existence. In Lagos, a young resistance fighter, who had once used improvised communication devices, now led a global initiative exploring consciousness itself. In Buenos Aires, the artist whose paintings had once disrupted alien communication networks now designed quantum communication interfaces. Humanity had not just survived an invasion. They had started a conversation that would reshape the universe. Jack Liu looked at Akira Chen, a smile playing across his lips. "We're not just exploring space," he repeated. "We're expanding the very definition of what it means to exist." The quantum communication array pulsed, a living, breathing testament to a simple, profound truth. The most dangerous weapon is not technology. It is imagination.